Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Sandy Rosenthal, host of Beat the Big Guys, and I'm so excited about my guest today. Her name is Kim Coates. Hi, Kim.
Hey, how are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for asking. It's a beautiful day in New Orleans, and I'm all excited. I got my brace off, and I'm going to go get X-rayed and find out if my broken hand is healing. So it's a happy day for me.
Well, good. I hope everything turns out well.
Thank you so much. So let me tell my guests, uh, let me tell my listeners all about my guest today. Kim Landry Coates is a lifelong resident of Tangipahoa Parish, and she's currently Tangipahoa Parish Councilwoman. She provided leadership when there was a big push to build a graphite manufacturing plant in the wetlands near Manchac. Later, after winning that battle, she continued to lead when developers wanted to build a resort village right there in our precious wetlands. Another project Kim is involved in is litter abatement and education. She worked on a grant with Osprey Initiative and Pontchartrain Conservancy to bring the first litter getter to Louisiana in Tangipahoa Parish. Well, I can't wait to hear all about that. I love Ospreys, but I also love getting rid of our litter. So can you tell me a little bit about, or tell our listeners a little bit about that project?
Yes, so in Tangipahoa Parish, we were ramping up and having a lot of volunteer litter cleanups, and we were collecting a lot of trash. We were doing really well, but Mr. Don, the owner of Osprey Initiative, is born and raised here in Tangipahoa Parish as well. He
Okay.
now lives in Alabama. Well, he invented the litter getter, which goes in a waterway and has booms across the waterway that collects the litter. And then his team actually goes, takes the litter out, tracks it, puts where the litter is coming from, or what types of litter it is. And then he recycles what can be recycled, and then they put the rest to the landfill.
I've never heard about this before. And what I love about it is not only do they pick up trash, which is good, but they're figuring out where it's coming from.
Yes, so Coca-Cola has been very involved as well. So that's part of where our grant came from with the Rivers Network, where Coca-Cola put up money because a lot of their plastic bottles was ending up in our waterways. So they're trying to take those steps to kind of help us clean it up. And we installed the first one in February of 2020. And then we got some more grant money, and then we got a private grant that now we have 3 in Tangipahoa Parish. So since 2020, we've collected over 2 tons of litter in 3 waterways.
That's
So
fantastic. You know the old phrase, we learn something new every day, but I'd much rather learn something good. And
yes,
this is a great initiative. I'm really happy to know about it and to learn about it. And kudos to everyone who's involved in these wonderful projects. So, Kim, tell us about your leadership in beating the big guys.
well, uh, I'll just admit that I was just, a wife and a mom and just enjoying our family and our life. And one night I got a message that was from the newspaper that this big battery plant was coming to Manchac. So I started making some phone calls, talked to some of our friends and family that have property down there, and we were all very concerned, didn't know anything about it. So we kind of we had a little meeting and formed a group because we were told if you form a coalition, you'll be heard more as a group than individuals. So we formed the Save Manchac Coalition. And we just started doing our
And for
research.
our listeners, excuse me, Kim, for our
Yeah.
listeners, because this is a national podcast, for our listeners, can you describe Manchac a little for them so we have an idea what we're talking about?
Sure. So Manchac is actually, if you look at Louisiana, there's Lake Pontchartrain and Lake Maurepas, which is a large estuary. it's fresh water. And Manchac is actually, there's a land bridge in between Lake Marpaw and Lake Pontchartrain, and that area in between is kind of our heart. So it's Manchac, and it's very fragile and sensitive wetlands. And situated right there next to I-55 in that Manchac area is Port Manchac. And so this is where this Australian company was coming to use to actually manufacture it was parts of lithium batteries that they wanted to do.
Lovely. Anyway, but go on. I don't mean to interrupt your train of thought.
Yeah,
Thank you for explaining that to our listeners.
Sure. So we did a lot of research and found this Australian company actually mines the graphite in Africa, where there's poor regulations and things, and they were going to barge that graphite up here. Well, the graphite mine was actually part of a uranium mine. So they were going to process this graphite and wash the impurities off and then dump that water into our freshwater estuary.
Lovely.
So we, the first step we did was to build our Save Manchac Facebook page and get the word out, which within a week we had 900 followers. So it really grew, it took off, word was spreading, what was going on. And when it was time for the public meeting, we had roughly 100 people show up, and it was opposed for 3 hours. So the word really got out, people were really vocal, and they did not make any votes. They took all the information, and a month later, they came back and voted not to sign the lease.
Congratulations.
So, yes, so that was a good for Manchac. I do hate to say that plant didn't move up river, the Mississippi River, to Vidalia, where they are actually in operation now. So it was a lot harder for up in Vidalia for them to turn the plant down. But as that business was moving out, other developers were coming in to actually do away with the port and build a huge village resort, like 400 camps, homes, you know, on this 140 acres with this fragile wetlands and stuff all around, which is the Joyce Wildlife Management Area in Louisiana, which is thousands of acres.
And we need every acre.
We do.
Everyone.
We do. So Pontchatoula, the city of Pontchatoula, is just north of these wetlands. And that was, that's where I'm born and raised. So that's what I was really advocating for, is to protect those wetlands. As Mr. Ed Bacher, one of your previous guests on the podcast, he actually, explained to me and educated me on a lot of the wetlands, where they wanted to drill some of these canals and things to build this resort out, you would destroy the riparian levee buffer, zone. So that's where the bank of the canals and stuff in the river is really, really tight and is very solid. But if you bust through that to make, these little waterways for the houses and things, you were breaking that levee, which would then push more water and kind of break down the wetlands behind it, which are already falling apart and degrading. So that levee, that riparian levee, was very, very important. So, just myself was learning and trying to, educate other people of how they work and how fragile and sensitive. So any little changes can speed up the degrading and also the subsidence that Louisiana is experiencing in our wetlands. So it took about a year. Our Facebook page kept growing. We kept in contact with the public. Many people, I think the word just kind of spread and was like, this is just a really bad idea. So I'd say for at least 12 months of meetings after meetings, we attended and brought evidence and showed pictures and showed what the storm surge. So Louisiana has their coastal master plan that we're spending billions to keep and restore the wetlands and things that on that property within 25 to say 50 years, roughly a category 3 storm would put 15 feet of water on that property. So not only did you have the storm surge coming, but that resort would have been one way in, one way out across a railroad track. So there was only one entrance. So they're talking about over 2,000 people that could get trapped on the other side of a railroad track if there's a derailment or something happens to that entrance. Well, the only way to evacuate people is by boat, and it's 14 miles to get around the Joyce Island to get back to the other side of the railroad track. So, safety was a big concern. So evacuating people, derailments, the train. So there was a lot of points that we were able to make to show that this was just a bad idea.
And then what? So you've made great points. It's not just about, it's not simply a not in my backyard issue. You've actually had evidence to show this is a bad idea overall, not just about you. So then what?
Yes, so after the year, the actual Port Commission decided to turn the project down and just continue on. So since then, which has been almost 2 years, we've been working and doing discussions with the port commissioners on, can we do a mixed use at the port and do some ecotourism, do some kayak launches, put some bird towers or a boardwalk or some little cabins, something that is very easy, I guess, on the wetlands and less impactful. So, nothing has been done. Like they've consulted an engineering architect firm to, look at a study, what they can do. But it's really hard because one of the warehouses has like a 50-year lease or 30. Oh. Yeah, I think it's a 50-year lease. It's just, there's a long-term lease for the company that's already there. So, and the logistics and the railroad track. So there's some issues of them trying to do that. That's what they're kind of working through right now. But in the meantime, I just saw what was going on with development and flooding, and because that was part of the whole conversations was, protection and using your natural resources. So I decided, after praying a long time, to run for parish council. So I'm not sure how the public was going to take it, but I was willing to stand up and take it on. And the incumbent had been in office for 24 years. So I ran for the office and is very honored and humbled that I was voted in. So we have done really great work with ordinances and working to make sure our people aren't flooding more. doing smart developments. One of the things is, bringing in fill in the wetlands and stuff. So we've gotten away from that, which is a really good point. We're looking at water storage and, really green space. So we've done and made a lot of progress, and I'm very proud of that in the last 2 years of being in office. We've decided if you have natural grade elevation, we don't want you to go up or below 24 inches of natural grade, because we don't want to push water onto your neighbor. So some of these huge developments were coming in and putting, 4 or 6 feet of dirt and then building the houses. So now we're only allowing 24 inches above natural grade. So if
Seems simple to me.
Yeah. So if a house needs to be built up, now it needs to be on piers or pylons and stuff. So, we see what's going on in Louisiana all the way around, and we're just trying to be very proactive.
Right. I just was going to say, yeah, we all see it, but you're doing something about it. I am proud to know you. And I can't wait. I have so many questions to ask. I'm brimming. Is this a appropriate time to jump in with a few questions? Thank you so much. So I noticed that almost the first thing you said was you started out just a wife and a mom. And that's exactly how I started out before I took on the federal government and the Army Corps of Engineers. I was just a wife and a mom, and I took on this cause. And it's very encouraging to know that you don't need special training to begin, to take that first step. You don't need special skills, special expertise to take that first step. And the first step is the hardest one. So don't worry about knowing all the answers on day one. Can you elaborate on that, Kim?
Right. I am going to say it just takes courage to use your voice. So just get that courage, attend a meeting, write a letter, write an email, just have courage to use your voice. Not everything is black and white that is presented to the public. So do the research, look in like what you can find and use that information.
And an incredible amount of information is readily available with a click of a mouse. I mean, with a click of a mouse, it's right there. But the big guys don't expect anyone to look.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
They're surprised when I'll never forget, someone asked me, a member of the Army Corps of Engineers, and when I became educated, I taught myself just like you're describing. And I was at a meeting and I just rattled off a couple of factoids. And he looked at me and he said, and I quote, "How did you know that?" And I looked at him and said, "I can read." And it was to the immense amusement of everyone in the room. But that's all it was. That's all it was. Now, so Kim, you said you created a group, and yes, a single person can't do anything. A single person can lead, but a person alone can do nothing. And so you created a group, and you said almost overnight you got 900 people. Well, how did you do that? Can you elaborate on that a little more? Tell us what you did.
So we created the Facebook page, the Save Manchac Coalition, as a public page, and just shared it and made phone calls, text the page to people, got the word out. So there's a lot of hunting gentlemen in the area that love the hunt in the swamp. Fish, we have commercial crabbers and fishermen, shrimpers. So I started making friends and getting calls and texts from people I had never met. And they were just interested, started sending emails. So we had just a Google email from, for Save Manchac, and started getting emails and just replying and telling people, here's our page, follow us or share it. We found other groups and just started sharing the page and the group with others. And
So allies, you connected with allies.
Yes. Other nonprofits as well.
Right.
I just started, like you said, Google. So I just started Googling, Louisiana wetlands and, yes.
Magic.
Yes. I made a list. I had a notebook and I started Googling and searching and just started writing people down in my notebook. And within a few hours had 50 people.
And it's for free. We haven't spent a dime yet.
I did run a few campaigns on Facebook, maybe spent total $40.
Yeah.
That was nothing.
It's nothing. Of course it's nothing, especially since so your group's $40. Okay, just so everybody out there picture this for the moment. This graphite company had millions of dollars that it could at its disposal, that it could spend, and it couldn't stand up to this group with its $40. It's true. It's happening every day. But if Kim had never set up that group, the graphite company would be there now, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much to get a critical mass. It doesn't take much. You'd be surprised. And 900 is great, but so is 100. Okay. You can get a critical mass. You'd be surprised how quickly you can do it if somebody will just speak up, right, and use their voice.
Because out of those 900, 100 showed up at the meeting.
Yes.
So because it just kept multiplying and people got very interested and wanted to come. And then when they started to hear, that's when they decided to sign up to actually speak. And
I love it. This is grassroots work at its best. Now, you'd mentioned Mr. Ed Vodka, and that's absolutely true. Mr. Vodka was one of my very first guests in season 1 of Beat the Big Guys podcast, because Mr. Ed has such incredible value to the organization. I mean, to this whole idea of speaking out and doing something. So when did Ed Vodka become your advisor? I mean, for those of you who haven't listened to that episode, Mr. Vodka is an expert. He's a biologist. Okay, so he understands the biology of what's going on in the wetlands. So at what point did Mr. Vodka what point did he start advising you and educating you on things you needed to understand with this graphite company?
So he actually posted some comments on one of our, posts, and I saw his name. I went back to my notebook and someone said, try to reach him, because they knew he was very involved with Manchac, the wetlands, and the wastewater treatment site just north of the port. It's literally right there. So someone had brought up his name, and I didn't know how to contact him. Well, when I saw him post, I reached out to him personally, which I did to many others, and he responded, and we just started discussing. So when we actually had one of our first little meetings at one of the restaurants with our small little core group, I asked Mr. Ed to come, and so we could talk, and he was the one that said they will listen to a group more than an individual.
Mm-hmm. So he's right.
He started right there and was very involved from the very beginning.
And here's the key, and all of you listeners out there, Ed Vodka is an expert, a bona fide expert who dedicated his life to understanding the biology of the wetlands, and he's a true expert. So what happened is, when Ms. Kim opened her mouth and started talking about this, she got the attention of Mr. Vodka, who, ended up, they ended up coming together because of that Facebook group. And that's what will happen when you speak out. Other experts will see what you're doing, and they will very likely come forward and offer their assistance, 99% of the time pro bono. All they want is to know that their advice has been listened to and when appropriate been used. That's all they want. And it will happen. Experts will come to you. Experts will come to you. Artists will come to you. Artists can also contribute their expertise by helping you create messaging or artwork. So it will happen, but don't worry that it doesn't happen the first day. It will come.
It surely did. I had many other experts that I would reach out to, or nonprofits or agencies that said, well, Kim, I can't publicly, speak or give my comments, but I can give you resources that you can use your voice. And I did. I had emails, and like if something would come up or we started a discussion about something, I would get an email from someone else saying, hey, have you looked at this? Have you used this? Look at this. Someone sent me a book that was done from Southeastern Louisiana University that actually the whole book is dedicated to protecting and saving the Manchac wetlands.
Wow. To talk about relevant. And yes, and it's just some random person you didn't know told you about this book. I can give you a million examples when that happened to me, but none of this would have happened if you didn't start this ball rolling. And another thing I want to point out is you are at this point in many ways an expert yourself because of your work, because of these efforts that you made, right?
I am learning every day.
Right. So you will become, the listeners will become experts in what you're doing just because new information will be coming at you every single day. I once had a reporter here in New Orleans who once said publicly that I know more about levees and levee building in New Orleans than anyone he knows. And it's because I absorbed it all, doing my activist work, and the same thing will happen to you. So go on, Kim. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine. So now I do get messages and emails so there's actually a new project that is coming up that would include part of Manchac and actually Lake Maurepas. I did not know about it, but someone knew that I'm always involved and said, hey, you need to go back and look at this newspaper article just from a few months ago, because they're looking to take and build carbon injection wells in Lake Maurepas and pump carbon under the lake, which I totally agree with. We need to reduce carbon emissions. I totally agree that, we need to make some changes and look at renewables, but I don't, from the research I've done, I do not like this idea of they're going to cut canals to put pipelines in already the degrading wetlands where they're spending millions of dollars to restore. And then there's actually a white paper from Loyola University and someone from UNO that this is a false hope, that this project is not going to work. The carbon capturing actually emits more emissions than actually not doing this at all.
This isn't the first project that looked like it could save us all, and it turned up it probably was dangerous. And that's wetlands assimilation. But that's a topic for a whole nother conversation. In fact, that was the topic of the conversation with Ed Bodko, wetland assimilation, which was going to save us all. And it turned up it was absolutely not. It was turning the wetlands into a giant toxic petri dish.
Yes.
But that's another conversation another day. Right. Ed came up with that, by the way.
Yes,
Talk about something that'll get your attention. Ed came up with that. But anyway, but back to you. I really want to draw attention, everybody, to the way that Kim, when she was fighting the resort, rather than just make this an issue of not in my backyard, okay? Kim made this an issue for the people who would be moving into this resort, heaven forbid, had it been built, because they would be trapped in the event of a storm, just like the people of the Lower Ninth Ward were trapped when the Army Corps of Engineers levees broke, and with nowhere to go except down. So it was very, very tragic. So by making this not just yourselves, that was brilliant. Well, I'm sure it wasn't strategic on your part. It's just what you did, and it worked. It was effective, and it worked. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And one more thing, as we're getting a little low on time, is not only were you the model citizen, you ramped it up to the next level by running for office and succeeding in that. So this is a really big step. That is way more than involvement. That is commitment by running for office. But that's also something that everybody out there should consider as a possibility. I will never do it because my husband says no. And one thing about running for office, if your partner is not supportive, it's probably not going to work.
Well, I'll give you a little laugh.
Okay.
One of my advisors came to our house, sat down, and told my husband he needed to run for parish council. So he started considering it, and he actually made some phone calls. Then I said, let's go to a council meeting, because they were discussing litter. And so I was working on a litter cleanup. And we left the meeting. My husband said, oh no. Oh no. He said, they will elect you before me.
I love it.
That's how it actually kind of came to be.
I love it. I love the story. This has been such a fun conversation. I'm sad that it's almost over. But before we sign off, for those of you who are interested in the work that she said call her Kim, but I keep wanting to say Councilwoman Coates. But if any of you would like to know more about the work she's been involved with, how would you suggest, what would you suggest our listeners do?
So our group still uses the Save Manchac Facebook page. So that one is still out there. We still share information as well as we can. And we'll be sharing more new on the project that's going to be happening in Lake Marpaw. I have a campaign page as well that I try to share as many positive things. Osprey Initiative has a website and a Facebook page that that we partner with here in Tangipahoa Parish. With our great work and picking up that 2 tons of litter, he is now expanding all over in the state of Louisiana. So Jefferson Parish, St. Tammany Parish, Baton Rouge. So there's more litter getters to come and cleaning up our waterways. So that's been a very positive impact that I've very enjoyed working with. So look up Osprey Initiative and their website, because they're doing some great work.
Thank you so much. As I said earlier, you learn something new every day, and this is something great to learn today. Thank you again, Kim Coates, for joining me, and I hope all of you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on all of your favorite platforms. And remember, no matter who you are, you too can beat the big guys. Okay, so stay with me.
Okay, I'm here. My son